Okay, this video is about slope. And slope is the ratio of a line's vertical change, called the rise, to its horizontal change, called the run. So there's a couple ways we can write this ratio. So we can say change in y over change in x, which is vertical change over horizontal change, which is rise over run. Okay, so if we're thinking about rise and run, rise is up and down, run is left and right. So there are four different types of slope. A positive slope is going to start lower, and as you work your way to the right, it gets higher, it goes up. Okay. Negative slopes, if you're looking at the left side of the graph, it's going to start higher, and then as it goes to the right, it goes down. Zero slope is a flat horizontal line. An undefined slope happens when we have a vertical line. Okay, hopefully you already watched Slope Dude. If not, you need to go watch it because you're missing out on one of the greatest videos ever. Okay, but Slope Dude, as a friendly reminder, as he goes up the mountain, he says, puff, puff, positive. As he goes down the mountain, it's very nice and easy. So he says, nice, negative. Then he gets to that flat part, which he says, this is zero fun. And lastly, he falls off the cliff. And this is hard to do on a computer, but I'll just write it like so, that is undefined. So let us look at finding slope from a graph. And really, before you start any of these, you should always ask yourself, what would Slope Dude say? Okay, if you're asking yourself, what would Slope Dude say, you should know what sign it's going to be. And you can always check to make sure you didn't make a mistake with the sign in the end. So finding slope from a graph is nice because we just get to count boxes. So if you can count, you're in good shape. Okay. What we do have to remember is that when we are counting, different directions have different signs. So if we are going up, that is a positive direction. If we are going down, that is a negative direction. If we are going to the right, that is positive. And if we are going to the left, that is negative, just like a number line. Okay, so we have a couple graphs of lines, and we're going to find their slopes. Now, these were nice, and they gave you some points to look at. Sometimes you're going to have to find your own points. So you're looking to see, like, where does it crisscross at a nice spot? But here we have points to look at. And I'm going to tell you, it does not matter which one you start with. Okay, I will prove to you with the first one that it will work both ways. Okay, but we are going to pick a point. Well, actually, first of all, we should say, what would Slope Dude say? So hopefully you're realizing that as it's starting at the top and going downwards, okay, this would be a nice negative. So in the end, our answer should be negative or we did something wrong. Okay, so we're going to pick a point, and I'm going to start with this top one. Okay, you start at that point and you're going to go straight up or straight down until you're even with that second point. So if I'm here and I want to get to that second point, I need to go down. We're going to count. We go down 1, 2. So we went down 2, okay, which is -2. Remember, slope is rise over run, so up and down, then left and right. Okay, it's opposite how you graph points, so that gives people some trouble. So up or down, then left or right. So here we went down 2, and then from there, we're going to go over to our other point. So we need to go 1, 2, 3. We went 3 to the right. Right is a positive direction. So we get -2/3. We said in the beginning that's supposed to be a nice negative. So that looks good to me. To show you that it would have worked with the other point, let's start here. In this case, we would need to go up first. So up 2 would be a +2. And then 3, 1, 2, 3. 3 to the left means it would be a negative on the bottom. And it really does not matter in a fraction where that negative is. It can be up top, on the bottom, out front, in front of the fraction bar. Okay, any one of those means it's negative. So Either way you do it, as long as you put the correct sign representing what direction it's going, you should end up with negative 2/3. Okay, for the next one, okay, it's starting here and goes up to the right. So this is a puff, puff, positive. Okay, this one should be a positive answer in the end. Okay, I'm not going to do it both ways, just one for this one. Actually, I'll do it both ways. So here, we would start at this point and go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we would go over 1 to the right. So up is a positive direction, 1 is a positive direction. And we do want to simplify things. And if it's over 1, that just means it's that number. So be positive 4. To show you what would happen the other direction, here we go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Down is negative. Over 1 to the left, left is negative. That negative over negative still gives us that positive 4. And last example, we'll start here, go down 2. Down is negative, so it's negative 2. 1 to the right means positive 1. And to simplify that, it would just be negative 2. Okay, so to find slope from a graph, just count your boxes, but you're going up or down first, then left or right, and make sure you're giving the appropriate sign for whichever direction you are going. Okay. Horizontal and vertical lines. Okay, we know horizontal is 0, and we know vertical is undefined. Okay, but let's try to see why this is happening. Okay, so here, we want to go up or down. So really, because they're even, okay, there is no going up or down here. So the rise is 0. And in this case, the run would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, but it doesn't really matter what the run is, because as long as there is no rise, you didn't go anything up or down, that means there's a 0 on top. And mathematically, 0 divided by a number, as long as it's not 0, just equals 0. So that's why horizontal lines have 0 slope. Undefined, okay, here, this one went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then it didn't move anything left or right. So the run was 0 in this case. And mathematically, you can't have a 0 in the denominator of a fraction. Okay, it just doesn't make sense. And mathematically, when there's that 0 in the denominator of the fraction, the word we use is undefined. So there is a difference between the 0 on top and the 0 on the bottom. And that's what causes horizontal lines to have a 0 slope and vertical lines to have that undefined slope. Okay, we can also ask you to find slope from points from ordered pairs. Technically, there's a slope formula. I will introduce the fact that for some reason, we call slope m. Don't know why, just go with it. Okay, so m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so that's the formula. Okay, those little 2's and 1's are not exponents. They're not floating up at the top. It's not saying we're squaring something. It's just saying that we have 2 ordered pairs that we're calling x1, y1 and x2, y2. And because there's 2 different ordered pairs, you kind of have to do something to it to show the 2 different ordered pairs. So that's where the 2 and the 1 came from. But really, the slope formula bothers me because you don't really need to use it. As long as you know that on top, you're going to subtract your y's, and on the bottom, you're going to subtract your x's, you'll be in really good shape, okay? Because honestly, if I'm looking at this first example, some people want to say, like, this is x1, y1, and this is x2, y2, and they're trying to plug the numbers into the formula. It doesn't matter which y you start with. You can do 5 minus negative 4 like this formula tells you. Well, really, you could also do negative 4 minus 5. The key is on top, whatever y you decide to start with, when you go down to the bottom, you just need to make sure you start with that same x. So if you're going to start with the first y, and do -4 minus 5, that's fine. But on the bottom, then you do -2 minus 1. How about I write that out? Okay, so we can do -4 minus 5 as long as we then do -2 minus 1. Or, okay, you can say 5 minus -4. Notice I put the parentheses there because we had that minus a negative. Over, I started with this one, so 1 minus -2. So let's just go through here. We'd have -9 over -3, which equals 3. Over here, minus negative becomes a plus, so we would have 9 over 3, which equals 3. So as you can see, it does not matter which one you start with. You don't have to sit there and call one x1, y1, x2, y2. You don't have to use this formula, okay? Just know subtract your y's on top, subtract your x's on the bottom. Whatever y you start with on top, just make sure you start with that corresponding x on the bottom. Okay, let's do b together. I kind of like to see like which one makes more sense. It sometimes there's no good option. Okay, but here I think I like 3 minus -1. So I'm going to start with that. So subtracted my y's. And on the bottom, if I started with this y, then I must start with this x, and it's 0 minus 4. So I get 4 over -4, which equals -1. And lastly, we have 3 minus 2. I like that better than 2 minus 3, so 3 minus 2 over 5 minus 2, which gives me 1 over 3. And that is how you find slope from ordered pairs. Okay, so I'm going to ask that you try those 4 on your own questions on your own. You might want to look back up at the top where we talked about horizontal and vertical lines and their slopes to help you with some of them. So finish those 4 and go ahead and upload your notes for us. Thanks.